The very girls once called cursed became the last hope of the village that had once killed their mother and cast them out. In a small village, there lived a woman whom everyone looked at with disdain. No man was willing to marry her because there was something strange and mysterious about her fate, which caused people to keep their distance. The villagers said she was cursed and that her presence brought misfortune to the village. Eventually, one man decided to marry the woman, even though he too had been influenced by the villagers' talk. After their marriage, the woman gave birth to 3 daughters. A few years later, the woman's husband passed away. Now, the woman and her daughters became the target of the village's hatred. People started spreading strange rumors about them and continued to see them as cursed. Life grew even harder for the woman and her daughters, as they became symbols of misfortune in the eyes of the villagers. The people were afraid to have them around and made their lives increasingly difficult. As time passed, the villagers' hatred for the woman and her daughters grew even more intense. The atmosphere in the village became so hostile that no one could tolerate their presence anymore. One day, the village elders and leaders made a decision. The woman and her daughters must be banished, and if they refused, they should be tormented as much as possible. In their eyes, the woman and her daughters were like a plague, cursed and unwelcome. One day, as the woman sat at home with her daughters, the villagers arrived at her doorstep. They humiliated her, then attacked. The villagers ended her life, believing that her death would bring peace to the village. Her 3 daughters, only 8, 9, and 10 years old, witnessed their mother's murder with shattered hearts. But they didn't give up. Instead of surrendering their lives to the same fate at the hands of the villagers, they decided to escape and survive. Later that night, under the cover of silence, the 3 girls fled the village to save themselves. Every step they took was filled with fear, yet there was also a spark of hope for a new life. They knew the villagers' wrath might follow them, but they had made up their minds. They would fight to survive. Isa, Zuli, and Kyla set out on a new path, carrying in their hearts both the pain of their mother's death and the determination to live. They were ready to begin a new life, far from the cruelty of the village. When the 3 sisters, Isa, Zuli, and Kyla, escaped the village and reached the forest, their hearts were filled with fear and anxiety. But the darkness and deep silence of the forest awakened a new courage within them. For them, this was a new beginning, a place with no villagers, no enemies, only their own lives and their own strength. As soon as they entered the forest, the 3 girls began building a new life with each other's support. Isa's natural instincts proved very helpful in this new environment. She could sense the sounds of animals and find paths even from afar. Zuli, always alert and quick on her feet, moved fearlessly through the forest. Kyla, with her bravery and intelligence, became the guiding force among them. In the beginning, they took shelter under a small tree, where food and protection were scarce but desperately needed. They started searching for fruits, seeds, and ways to hunt. But survival was not easy. The forest held hidden dangers, and they had to struggle for their safety. One day, while they were out hunting, they encountered a wild tiger. The tiger moved toward them, and the 3 girls stood frozen in fear. But Kyla quickly understood the tiger's intentions. She told Isa and Zuli that they needed to trap it. Isa studied the tiger's movements, while Zuli quickly planned how they could change direction and escape. Within moments, the 3 sisters outwitted the tiger and led it into a trap near some old ruins. Despite the tiger's strength and speed, their cleverness and teamwork brought them success. After capturing the tiger, the girls looked at each other and smiled. A new sense of courage had awakened in their hearts. They now knew that the challenges and dangers of the forest could only be faced through unity and mutual support. With each passing day, they faced new hardships and found renewed determination. Life in the forest made them stronger and more self-reliant. Not only were they protecting themselves, but they were also becoming each other's source of strength. Isa, Zuli, and Kyla discovered the power within themselves and continued striving to build a place for themselves in the heart of the wilderness. During their many months in the forest, Isa, Zuli, and Kyla not only sharpened their survival skills but also grew mentally stronger. They had become deeply familiar with the different parts of the forest, and the bond between them was now stronger than ever. Their strength, wisdom, and courage had made them so self-reliant that they were no longer just surviving. They were preparing to take revenge on the villagers. Isa's natural instincts had become so keen that she could understand every movement in the forest, every rustle of leaves and branches. She could sense where prey was hiding or from which direction danger might come. She had learned that true success in the forest came only by understanding everything around her. Zuli no longer relied only on observation. She now trusted her own reasoning and analysis. She had become well aware of the paths, the dangers, and how to navigate through them, guiding her sisters with confidence. Kyla had gained deep knowledge of the fruits and herbs in the forest. Not only did she hunt, but she also found remedies to heal and protect her sisters. Her intelligence and foresight had made all three of them capable of facing any threat the forest could throw at them. But living in the forest had taught them something even more important. Revenge could only succeed with careful preparation and strategy. Their next great effort was to confront the villagers. After the death of their father and the brutal murder of their mother at the hands of the villagers, the three sisters were determined to make them pay. They had endured hatred, humiliation, and loss, and now their resolve was unbreakable. Having mastered life in the wild, they began preparing to settle the score. They knew they would not only be fighting for themselves, but also for their mother. The three sisters planned to return to the village. But they were fully aware that the villagers wouldn't welcome them, especially after the cruelty they had faced in the past. So, they decided to form a careful strategy to take the village by surprise. Kyla, having gained deep knowledge of herbs and natural elements during their time in the forest, began preparing a powerful potion that could disorient the villagers. Isa carefully studied the paths leading into the village and identified the most effective point of entry. Zuli analyzed the entire plan and focused on strengthening the bond between the three of them. Now, the sisters were ready to return and seek justice, not just for their mother, but for themselves. When the three sisters finally returned to the villagers were stunned to see them transformed. Their inner strength, confidence, and calm presence left the people speechless. Everything about them, their aura, their determination, their silence, was unfamiliar to the villagers. But the sisters didn't come back seeking praise or admiration. They came to teach the villagers the very lesson they had learned through suffering. They knew the time had come to settle their past, not only for their mother, but for their own future. When Isa, Zuli, and Kyla returned to the village, they were met with a haunting sight. The streets were silent, doors of homes were shut tight, and a shadow of death loomed over every face. People were burning with fever, children were crying in agony, and the elderly were gasping in pain. The villagers were terrified upon seeing the three sisters. They believed this calamity had arrived because of the girls' return. Some of the elders even said openly, "These girls brought the plague with them. We should have stayed away from them from the beginning." But in the hearts of the sisters, there was no longer a fire for revenge. Their time in the forest had taught them much, the meaning of pain, the value of patience, and the importance of saving lives. Isa turned to her sisters and said, "We have to help them, no matter how much pain they caused us." Zuli nodded in agreement. "What's the use of all we've learned if we don't use it to save someone's life?" Kyla immediately added, "Let's go back to the forest. There are some special herbs I learned about from Grandmother Harkema. They can cure this fever." Without wasting time, the three sisters set out for the forest once again. Their hearts now held only one purpose: healing. They had transformed their anger into service and their pain into a remedy. They had come to understand that true strength lies in healing wounds, not in causing them. The three sisters immediately set out for the forest once again. They knew the trails by heart, the same winding paths they had once run through as children. Beneath the trees, They gathered fragrant herbs, leaves, berries, and roots, all the remedies they had come to know so well. Kyla picked the leaves of the Kali Mawa plant, known for reducing fever. Zuli selected the seeds of Nilari Golbero, which helped lower body heat. And Isa unearthed the roots of Roshan Dana, a remedy that restored energy to weak, fever-stricken children. Together, they spent the entire night preparing medicine from the herbs. No firelight, no noise, only skill, love, and pure intention. The next morning, as the sun spread its golden rays across the earth, the three sisters returned to the village with the medicine. As soon as the villagers saw them, they began shutting their doors. But the sisters stopped in front of a house where a child lay between life and death. Isa said, "Give us a chance, we can save your child." The woman's eyes were filled with helplessness and tears. After a moment of hesitation, she opened the door. The three sisters entered, gave the child the medicine, cared for him tenderly, placed a damp cloth on his forehead, and quietly prayed for his recovery. Within a few hours, the child began to move, and a faint smile appeared on his lips. The news spread through the village like wildfire. "Those same girls we once called cursed, they just saved a life." Now, one by one, the village doors began to open. The sick, the weak, the helpless, they started coming to the sisters, seeking medicine, prayers, and the mercy they had once failed to recognize, but were now beginning to understand. The three sisters worked tirelessly, day and night. They gave medicine, tended to the sick, massaged the aching feet of the elderly, and carried children in their arms. The villagers were no longer afraid of their presence. Instead, their kindness and selfless care had begun to soften hearts. One day, the very woman who once cursed their mother and spat at her in hatred came and sat at Zuli's feet. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Forgive us, child. You are better than all of us. We wronged your mother terribly." Zuli looked at her in silence. There was sorrow on her face, but no hatred. She simply said, "We didn't come for revenge, we came to heal the wounds." Within a few days, the village began to heal. The children once thought to be on the brink of death were now laughing and playing with joy. The faces of the elders glowed once more, and the hearts of mothers were finally at peace. Every day, Isa, Zuli, and Kyla knocked on a new door, offering medicine, comfort, and kindness. They healed wounds not just of the body, but of the heart, and in doing so, won the trust of all. Then one day, the entire village, young and old, men and women, elders and children, gathered in the open field where the three sisters had once been cruelly cast out. Every face was heavy with remorse. Shame filled their hearts, and the air was thick with a quiet, collective guilt. The village chief stepped forward, his voice soft and trembling. "We wronged you. We took your mother from you, left you alone, and never accepted you. But today, you've shown us a greatness we will never forget. You brought light back into our homes, saved our children, without vengeance, without anger." Then he bowed before the three sisters. "We ask for your forgiveness. And we ask you to become part of our hearts, and of this village, in a way we can be proud of." The entire village bowed with him, every person, from every walk of life. Kyla looked at Zuli. Zuli looked at Isa. And Isa gently smiled and said, "We forgive you, but only on the promise that no one will ever again be rejected because of how they look or how different they are." The chief immediately responded, "We will make that our law, from today, and forever." And at that very moment, a beautiful rainbow appeared in the sky, as if nature itself smiled and sealed the moment, washing away the pain that once divided them.